There's lots of cool stuff you can craft in Conan Exiles, but there's some even cooler stuff that only drops from bosses and various different random sources around the map. So if you've ever wanted to get your hands on a glowy axe, or maybe a torch that seemingly never goes out, on today's guide I'm going to show you where to get all of these essentially free, or rather just kind of uncraftable weapons in Conan Exiles. As yes, there is a little bit of effort in acquiring them, nothing is ever free. Starting off with the boss drops from the skeletons in the Unnamed City, as they all share the same loot pool, where you can get the Festering one, which is a nice axe that does always poison damage and 64 health, 0 armor pen. The Lying Bastard, which is actually an axe and you can skin it on things like your YOGS touch and make it do much more powerful things, a little bit more powerful things. It has cripple naturally, it is 60 health damage and 9 armor pen, and it is all lights. We can also get the Black Tusk shield, but we can also get that occasionally from random boxes about the map, usually in Sepimero, but also in other places. The Corrupted Axe, it looks a lot like Yog's Touch, but instead it just gives corruption when you hit people. It does 64 damage. You have the Spectre's Bane, it is Spectre's Coating, which means it does more damage to things like skeletons, so it's good to get and go kill those blue skeletons. It also has cripple, it is a one-handed sword, it is 60 health damage and 9 armor pen. We have a couple of Warhammers with the Rage Hammer, it has Sunder, Berserk, 47 armor pen and 68 health damage. The Maelstrom is also Sunder, 49 health damage and 0 armor pen. Unlike most Warhammers, that's not very much armor pen, to be fair. The Heated Argument, it will heat players up when hit, so if you're fighting someone in the volcano, it's a good way to give them heat stroke. It has 60 health damage and 28 armor pen. It is a one-handed mace. We have another one-handed mace with the Quake, which can also drop very rarely from the WARMAKER champion in the WARMAKER Sanctuary. You know, the real psycho one that you don't want to get tapped by? That's because she's using this mace that has 67 health damage and 27 armor pen. She also has a very strong strength multiplier. The Sword of Crom, it can now, I do believe, be put back on thralls and they do stuff. Otherwise, if you use it, it will drain all of your stamina. It does health damage of 78 and armor pen of 20. It is a two-handed sword. Another one-handed sword with the Drunkard's Blade. It will make people drunk if you hit them, so that's something to note. You can get people really drunk and they can't heal whilst taking drunk damage. It has 60 health damage and 9 armor pen. We have the Ghast Sword. It looks really cool and it looks much like that Ghast axe that I was holding earlier, with cripple, 51 health damage and 9 armor pen, and it also does corruption damage. Very similar with that axe, only no armor pen and 64 health damage. The Ghast Sword is also a one-handed sword. There are a few skeleton bosses, but like I said, they all share the same loot pool, where you can also get a relic fragment and the potential chance, I think it's about 30% chance to get those weapons. We're here at 6E in the Unnamed City. Our first boss, they're a bit spicy if you're not prepared for them, so keep that in mind. They can hit hard, but they are doable. This one we got the Heated Argument from. Just a bit of a hop, skip and a jump away up over the ridge. Gonna find another one just in here. It's also worth killing the guys around because they can have some pretty cool loot in their pockets. That one had nothing, makes me lie. That one has some Demon Blood, some Grey Lotus. They often have alchemy equipment. This guy dropped some armor, so that's a terrible example, but he is right here in 6D, kind of behind the slave pits area. Heading up just over here, you can find our next boss. You will have to climb to him, so I don't often come up. I advise coming up on the corners because it is easier to climb and there tends to be more resting spots. It can be kind of annoying climbing up, keep that in mind. I advise luring him over this way because you can boop off, he can boop you off, he can just boop off. It all can be kind of annoying, so don't do that. And he dropped us another silk top and some dragon powder. Very nice. We're here still in 6D, a little bit near the spawning pools. And the Atlantean dictionary is also located there on occasion if you wish to know all the languages randomly. And our final guy is kind of over here with the other white skeletons chilling about. Is he at this one or the next one? It is this one. From him, we got the shield. Next, we have the Red Mother. She can drop the Reach of the Red Mother, which is quite a nice bow. Does 34 damage and 9 armor pen and is agility based because some bows now are strength based. We can get that fun torch that burns forever with the final breath of the Red Mother. The Fangs of the Red Mother, which are a throwing axe, 47 health damage and do extra bleed. The Blades of the Seven Wind, all of that armor pen with 100 armor penetration and 33 health damage. It is a katana. If you like a katana and you like armor pen, this one could be for you. And the Lifeblood Spear. Sometimes it's broken and it just regens your health nonsensely. Sometimes it's a piece of poo that's not worth getting. It's up to you whether you wish to hold it or not. It does 60 health damage and 9 armor pen and is a spear. Located at the spawning pools in 6D. You can usually fight it by yourself, but you can bring some thralls. They'll often get booped into the ground with her stompies. Avoid her fire breathing and you should be pretty okay. Her health's not as crazy as it once was, but at 12k it can take a little while if you are lower level, but Bleed and Sunder should do it pretty fine. If you do want a video of me fighting all of these bosses, I can do that, but it's not going to make a huge difference to y'all's life, to be fair. You might get a bit of an idea of the movesets, I guess. This time we only got the Dragon Scale Helm. I also advise hacking her up. You can get a whole lot of dragon horn from her rather than the regular one that you can get off normal dragons, so it is a decent way to get up a bunch of horn. Next we have the Brute, who drops the Shank, who do cripple, very nice, and 45 health damage, 18 armor pen. They are daggers. We have the Predatory Blade, which you can only use light attack on, but it does 108 health damage and extra cripple. It's a one-handed sword and it's one of my favorites. He's pretty easy to fight. There's not too much around him. He doesn't have as much health as most of the other guys. And he dropped the Predatory Blade for us. Super nice. We love that. And a little bit of perfected padding and some dragon powder. So we're pretty much set right now. If you want to breathe underwater infinitely or have an extra type of arrow that does a decent amount of armor pen, you want to go visit the Winged Death. The Riptide is a throwing javelin, but you can just keep it in your hand equipped and do some damage that way. If you hit people with it, it will do 75 health damage. Just holding it whilst swimming will enable you to breathe underwater without having to come up for air at all. It can be found at the corner of D5 at the Aviary. Again, a little bit easier than a bunch of the others, and there's not a huge amount of stuff around him. A couple little boxes behind, worth getting. Kill him, hack him up for a chance to get extra stuff, and we got the quivering arrows that time. You can also get some armors and stuff off him too. We hack him up, we get some bat skin, and sometimes I thought you got demon blood, but maybe not. Venturing out of the unnamed city, but still having to dip into a dungeon, we have the Scorpion Ward, which is 100% drop. I'm fairly sure it's 100% drop, actually. I've always gotten it. From the Scorpion Queen at the end of the abandoned silver mine dungeon. It does extra heat protection, so it can really help you out up in the volcano, and it has all of the durability, which is also really nice. Located at BC 6 in that abandoned silver mine, I do have a separate guide that goes into the whole silver mine dungeon, although there are a couple of boxes that I missed in my guide. They're about, you should go adventuring. Look upwards. Now, if you're needing help getting to the volcano through the frost, there is a weird slight option that you can use the Eye of the Watcher. There are a couple of places it drops, as a guy in the WARMAKER sanctuary now also has a chance to drop it. It is more commonly gotten over on the Southern Aqueduct in 7F. You will pretty much always find this guy unless someone's recently killed him. He's super easy to kill, so you can get him pretty low level and get yourself a fairly decent-ish low level weapon at 36 damage and 9 armor pen. It is a one-handed sword and he always drops it. Oh, I love that for me. This guy's a rare chance spawn, so he's not always necessarily here, but if he is, I highly advise killing him because you get a chance at getting the Mandibles of ATLACH-NACHA. I cannot say them very well, but they do 50 armor pen. He is pretty easy to kill, but sometimes he's just a random thrall here. There we got our Mandibles. Also want to hack him up for getting some Ichor and I believe Demon Blood also, yes. He can be located at the pens in the volcano in 13G. But like I said, not always. I did actually get pretty lucky there. This guy might not always be Reza the Brutal. Maybe sometimes they are a devotee, whatever. I'm having a lot of luck right now. We love this for filming. But did you know inside of the dregs, there's also a chance to get both the throwing daggers and the mandibles, but also the graceful knight katana and potentially the reliable butcher, which is about the same as a hardened steel butchering knife, but it does have a lot of durability. Simply go inside the dregs. I do have a separate guide. Touch the tablet if you haven't already. A little bit past this trigger here, you will blink and miss this entrance. Right to our right, we can find a spider boss sitting in an acid pool. They're pretty easy, spider boss. The acid pool is an acid pool and will damage you, so keep that in mind. We did get the graceful knight and the akabani throwing blades. They'll also have a chance to drop a bunch of other random nonsense. I thought there was a box in here, but maybe not. Oh, there is a box. If you'd like a detailed guide on how to get down here, you can check out my dregs guide linked somewhere. If you want your chance of getting more throwing daggers, come on down to Skittering Cavern in 5EF. Get a little ghost scene, a whole bunch of spiders. It is one of the few small dungeons that actually offer a skeleton key box that's quite relatively easy to get into. You can also get some Numidian helm here. All the way at the end, we'll find our boss. Not to be confused with the one that we just fought in the dregs, but we got the things. And there is that legendary key box located directly behind. Got a black dragon pike. Look out. Pack them up and get a key and blood and all of that. You may know this buttholy cave behind me from bringing a whole bunch of hearts here to roll your chances at maybe getting a gorilla or a yeti pet. But did you know if you kill the guy at the end, the Valis Bella, in H3 here, Hanuman's grotto, you run your chance at getting the Staff of Hanuman. Technically a legendary. Is it good? No, not really, but is it better than nothing? Yes. Is it worth killing him for? Not really, because he's kind of very hard, but hey, there is that option. A decent amount of crystal can be had in here and also some glowing goop about. Come to the very end and kill Valis the Loyal. Oh, we actually got the staff. And you can get some Silent Legion. If you hand in the heart directly to the Hanuman statue, you can get the gifts of Hanuman, but you may also get a Yeti or something. And I'm not really sure who needs to know this, but if you ever wanted the goat horned bow, you can make your way up a cliff right behind the crevice in 11D and find yourself just a regular looking goat. Upon slaying the goat, he will drop 100% of the time a goat horned bow bar. Now we find ourselves at the center of the den in 8D. Being that, no, of course it's not. Sometimes there is a one-skulled hyena here. In fact, there are two different types of them called like rake and bake or something. This guy looks like just your normal fella. But when it's not the normal fella, they have a chance of dropping the Doom Hammer, 66 damage and 49 armor penetration. The more of the hyena, which aside from having its not very good durability, does have one of the best harvesting amounts of all of the cleavers with 16 harvesting. We can also get the bestial claws, 33 health damage and 8 armor penetration. Again, not very good durability. And just out the front, on occasion, you get a chance to find some other legendary claws. I don't remember which ones they are because they're not here right now, but on occasion they can be. Much like the reliable butcher can sometimes be on this table in the middle of New Asgard. Today, it is not there. Making our way to Flotsam in N7. We can sometimes find a cook, but sometimes we can find a drunkard, depending on who they are. It depends on what they drop. They do hit like a sack of bricks, so don't fight them unless you are prepared for that. We did get the chef's trusted cleaver. Unfortunately, out of all of them that we've mentioned so far, it is one of the worst with only 10. It is similar to a steel cleaver in damage with its harvesting 10. And if it is the drunkard, we will get the broken glass, which is a very tiny axe. It is 43 health and 0 armor penetration because it is an axe. And it has like no reach. If you've been doing the Lemurian dungeon at Dagon's Embrace, you would have gathered up a fair few of these pearls. If you didn't know what to do with them, well, don't blame you, it's not very forthcoming. You come on up to also still at N7 at Flotsam, but we're up on the furthest ledge up here. Near Queen Shamala, whatever her name is here. She will teach you Stygian alchemy, but also sell you the sword of Enraku, which is no longer that fantastic compared to what it used to be because it does no longer have a hidden stat. And we can buy the shield of this guy, which again is no longer as good as it used to be. But they do look cool and they will make for a good skin for your stuff. An illusion. Pretty cool and Cthulhu-y if you're into a bit of maritime roleplay. If you want a sea salt cutlass, you can come and kill Captain's bodyguard up on the pirate ship itself. In 8.0. She'll usually drop 1 or 2, 1 usually being full durability and 1 not being. It does bleed, unlike regular cutlasses, which also don't do bleed. And every now and then, killing one of the Black Corsar guys roaming around will yield you a Black Corsar sword. Would you like a short sword that does 83 health damage and 20 armor pen and extra bleed? If so, head on down to the Well of Skelos, located in the middle of the volcano. Simply head down this way from the volcano and the entrance. On occasion, you can also find Serpentman weapons in the boxes, as well as the Serpentman skinning knife, which you can't actually make even when you learn the recipe, but it's as good as a steel thing with only 10 damage. Oh, it's no good showing you on a map. Yeah, look out for the blue glowy bit. If you're looking for a Blade of the Betrayer with 68 health damage and 23 armor pen and some bleed, we can find it hop, skip and a jump away pretty much in the next door from where we just were. It's the loot bag of this guy, but we didn't get it on that turn. It is a two-handed sword looking very obsidian-y. And occasionally you're going to find these emissaries about, or brood guards. Sometimes emissaries, sometimes the brood guards. This guy's always a brood guard, and he will also drop us a sword. Specifically the sword of the brood guard with a 47 health damage and 9 armor pen. This one particularly is located in G13 right here, but we also have a couple of other ones. A lot of these fighters can be an emissary dude, but I often find him over here. There's one of these guys. Then we find a brood guard Isis up over here, just climbing into the temple. He'll also drop the same sword of the brood guard. The other sword that drops from the emissary that did not spawn in is the Bloodstone sword, does frostbite damage, 42 health, 12 armor penetration, and cripple, as well as being just a cool looking red sword. One for the collection. Making our way over towards New Asgard, we're going to find a bear called Misha. They drop some pretty nice daggers pretty regularly. We're going to get the Misha's bites. 28 health damage and 16 armor penetration. They did change the skin of them. They look much different now to what they did. That scream in game actually scared me in real life. And hacking her up, of course, gives demon blood and other extra goodies potentially at the end because she's one skull. That spot again was 10 FE just outside of New Asgard on the north face. If you want the active violence, which does Executioner and has health damage of 71, no armor penetration, but Executioner will do an extra 10,000 damage. I believe it's 10,000 for every hit when the enemy is under 10%. For most enemies, this is going to be an insta-kill. Some of them it will take a little bit longer, but it does do that extra damage when they are below 10%. You can also potentially get an unwelcome gift, which is a throwing shield that I've never actually used. We can also get the black blood tools here, but not in Lockstone Cave. In pretty much all of the other ones, you can get acid arrows in Lockstone Cave, well, the recipe anyway. And there is a legendary key box in there also. These two lead to each other, in fact, so you can choose to go in either one. It is dark, bring a torch. And heading on down somewhere in the bottomy pits area, we're gonna find this guy. He gave us an active violence, but also can sometimes be a hollowbone bow as well. And if we hack them up, we can sometimes get hollowbone arrows, although it is quite rare. This is another good source of black blood. If you wish to get the black blood tools, simply make your way back out again. Oh, it's so dark and horrible in here. God, almost got lost then for a second. Make your way up to this final cave. If If you don't want to get knocked down by them so much, you can try riding a horse. That can help, and use a weapon that you can use on a horse, as horses don't tend to get knocked back as much. There are 2 bosses in here, I believe. Yes. One here. Hack him up and get the key. Or maybe I'm just thinking of the key box, which is located up here. Yeah, there's not an extra boss in here. What am I tweaking on? There should be, because it's a big pit to helly nowhere. That cave is Binyakin's seal. On that same theme of executioners and wearing a helm to go... Actually, no, I'm wearing the slaver helm, not even wearing the executioner helm. Never mind, spreading false information. There's also a helm that you can get from here that looks a lot like this. We have the executioner's axe, doing 64 damage, not quite as good as the act of violence. It also does execution. And we have the executioner's blade, which is a one-handed sword. There are 2 entrances, the 2 executioner's entrance. At I5, we can either go in through this one or in over here. Either one, it's about the same, full of spiders, skeletons, metal, and brimstone. Whew. Death Whisper Ruins. Head on out the back and find this guy. Highly advise taking out all of the skeletons first because he sucks. Today we only got a relic fragment. Where went all me luck from earlier? This next place probably has some of the most legendary weapons and some of the better ones to be gained from farming it repetitively. I'm of course talking about the WARMAKER's Sanctuary and 7-8B Aklil's Stronghold. I do have a whole separate guide on this dungeon, so I'm not going to run the whole thing, but I will run over the bosses that do drop the goods. This first guy, our Gate Guardian, can drop the axe of the Gate Guardian. He didn't do it that time. What a dick. But it is one of my favorite axes. It does sunder as well as 71 health damage and 0 armor penetration. Being an axe, it will also do bleed on its final hit. Very nice. Immediately to our left, we all have our first door. We're going to find an extra boss in here now, but he's just an unnamed city skeleton, so he drops that same loot pool as all of those skeletons from earlier. We could get heated arguments, we could get... This time we got a rage hammer. Look out. This God King behind me can drop things like the Balius, the Mordion, the Nordis, and the Renaissance, which I'll go into a little bit later. Not too hard to kill these guys. I highly advise killing the skeletons first because they can be annoying. And hack them up for some demon blood and thick hides. We got the Maudlin, which is a very nice spear, 67 health damage and 9 armor penetration, and it also does corruption when it hits people. The Nordis is another drop, which is a mace, which 67 health damage, 27 armor penetration, and it's also corrupted. The Renaissance, also corrupted, 45 armor penetration and 79 health damage. A very nice warhammer, not quite as nice as the one that you can get from the caravans, but it's still pretty dang nice. We can also get the Balius, also corrupted, does cripple, it is a one-handed sword, does 67 damage and 9 armor penetration. If this is your first time running the dungeon, you also want to collect up the statues so you can get the Inner Sanctum key. I usually forego doing the middle guy unless I am getting the key because he only drops some books that don't stack with any other potions or anything, so they're pretty useless. But you can go into here and we can find our next guy, another servant of the Priest King, but first we'll find a Blood Defiler. This Blood Defiler, he looks like he has a lot of HP and he can hit pretty hard, but he is staggerable. So if you got some good daggers or a pokey spear, you can stagger him a lot more than he's able to do any hits on you. Plus he's quite slow. He has the chance of dropping the Berserker's Fist Blades as well as the Diseased Spikes, which are diseased. Pretty cool. Actually not 100% sure what Vengeful does. I'm pretty sure someone told me once and I instantly forgot, but I don't think I've ever used these. He also has the chance to drop the Eye of the Watcher, which we got from our skeleton earlier on the Southern Aqueduct. And he's a good source of demon blood. Yes, the Eye of the Watcher. We got the Disease Spikes with it. Powder of Corruption, because that's a thing. At least it doesn't randomly drop the essence from Sipter anymore. That was a thing for a while too. Going through this door, we will find our Priest King who can drop a whole assortment of nice gear. This time we got the Set's Tongues. They will take away the drunk debuff if you hold them. They will take away people's buffs if you spike them with it. Similarly, we can also get Mitra's Justice, which is a mace version of the daggers, doing 60 damage and 28 armor penetration. We can also get Jebel Sarg's trowels, which are another set of daggers, but they do bleed on light and heavy attacks. We can get Ymir's Touch, which is a very durable shield. We can get YOGS Touch, which is one of the few, I think there's like 3 or 4 axes that actually naturally come with armor penetration. The Axe of the Reaver, this one, Lemurian Axe, and I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting. Decato's Voice, which is similar to the Reach of the Red Mother with a lot of health damage. This one doesn't have any armor penetration, but does have power draw, whatever that's good for. And it's a strength weapon, so if you do like bows but you prefer to be a strength build, maybe something like Decato's Voice is for you. And Crom's Hammer, which does 0 armor penetration, but we do 79 health damage. It used to do extra strength as well, but I don't know what it does now. Once you collected all the statues, got the key, head on in here and we can find another boss pretty much straight away, which if you wish to use this door here, you will need to kill him, although there are alternative routes. Coming down here, we can find this guy. This time he dropped the World Breaker, but can also sometimes drop the Annihilator. They used to have 100% armor penetration, but now it is 67. To be fair, that's still pretty huge. It is a Warhammer and it has 68 health. We can also get the Annihilator with 75 health damage and 33 armor penetration. It also has the Execution stat on it, and it looks cool. So glowy, so cool. Unfortunately, the World Breaker literally just looks like a hardened steel hammer. So rather than go through that door, usually I go through this crack and I just avoid the arena champion. But if you want a chance at an extra Quake, which is an unnamed city drop, you can kill her. Sometimes she might drop it, but usually she doesn't. Drops a couple of scraps and can potentially drop some champion armor. We didn't get lucky then. She has become a little bit easier in recent times, but I still prefer not to fight her because I don't like her. Come all the way up to the end. There are a couple of other dudes we can fight in here, but they're not what we're about. If you didn't know though, you can use a pick and destroy this ice here and find a Yeti hidden behind, and he can drop some fun stuff. Not legendary things, but he'll drop a legendary key. You might notice the boxes are not legendary behind him, but that's okay because there are like 6 legendary boxes in the center of the sanctum itself. Now this guy very rarely drops any of his stuff, but we'll have a go. Oh, Jesus Christ. We got the Destroyer. It is a hammer that will instantly corrupt you if equipped. It does 79 health damage and 45 armor penetration. And you can also sometimes get the Carnage, which is 77 health damage and 24 penetration. It is a good way to get instantly corrupt if you exit creative mode. I did think it made you a little bit more corrupt than that, but hey, still pretty dang corrupty. This is also where you learn master kits, so I highly advise touching these tablets so you can put those kits on your armors and weapons that you've just gone and touched or through all the effort. Seeing as you cannot repair them, it is good to have them as best as you possibly can. Used to also be where we learned legendary repair kits. Unfortunately, they took that out of the game and they no longer do that, but it is still master repair kits and they repair stuff to the most capability with the least durability lost. And a lot of these legendary key boxes. Axes of the Lion. Now for a couple of honorable mentions before we get on to our last dungeon where we can get some free legendary weapons that are not craftable. Over at Almeria, we can find a couple of goodies. Located here and there, you can find battering rams that you can actually interact with and pick up. These battering rams, when equipped, will enable you to do damage to building pieces when you're not running, and you don't have to use any other form of explosions. Is it as quick and effective as using bombs? No. Is it free? Yes. On that same note, you may have seen my separate little video where you can get in here and get out pretty quickly with sorcery or simply just jumping in and climbing over. Sometimes you'll get shot down and it's a bit more risky, but can also be done. You can get Musashi's Blackblade 100% of the time, just chilling here. It is usually a legendary weapon dropped out of legendary boxes, but today it is here for you for free. Every now and then, killing bosses and or looking in boxes will give you the ward, which is also a legendary weapon, but it looks like a stone mace. The black tusk shield can also occasionally be found in random boxes about the place. We can also potentially get some lesser legendaries like the whale and the shark bites from boxes at the, must be this one. It doesn't always have it. Little Neeb's secret doors. There is also a good chance to find it in the box inside of the crevice here, but not always again. Somewhere way more reliable is over here underneath the pirate ship. You'll usually have to find a little ghost climbing up. Oh, there they are, climbing up. Can't really see them very good. And that box can sometimes have those legendaries in it too. So keep making your way up even further. Keep climbing. And we can find a box over here, which also has a chance. And just over here is where we can learn a little story and also get Rum Runner Vad's secret recipe. Just a little bonus chucked in there. Sometimes you'll find a set archpriest named Hoshin the Fang. He's gonna drop us some daggers of 1,000 binds. Quite a rare little random drop. Every now and then, while you're in the area of Sepumeri, you might find some flotsam floating about. There's none here today, but opening it up can yield a whole bunch of random building materials or potiony goods, or sometimes gravediggers, table legs, cactus swords. I think you can get the other mace one as well. But the gravedigger is super handy because you can actually dig up graves when you have it in your inventory. All of these are learnable recipes from the library, but you do get some free ones every now and then. So I thought I'd mention. Now, if you happen to want some really rare, cool looking stuff that's not as cool as it used to be, but still pretty cool, one of the very few scythe-themed weapons, which does an impressive 90 damage, but as it is technically a great axe, it does 0 armor penetration and no longer does a helicoptery move. It does look cool. The Mace of Thag, 46 health damage and 25 armor penetration. It's a mace. And the Hammer of Thag, 65 health damage and 45 armor penetration. Is also corrupted, so you can hit people and corrupt them. It is a pretty cool looking set of weapons, not going to lie. Little glowy blue eyes. But inside the dungeon, there are also some mini bosses which might potentially drop us some other goodies, like the pristine Kari sword, pristine Kari daggers, and the pristine Kari bow. Slightly better than the other Kari weapons you can make, but these are the only variety of pristine. That location is the Winemaker dungeon, Winemaker cellar Kari dungeon in 7B, just behind Conan's house. Click on this little door. We also get a chance to fight a guy and get a kind of not really legendary anymore truncheon. Used to be one of the best we could get, but we can get better now, but it's still really good and it can be free. Click on this door. This guy can hit hard, but if you have some stone daggers, you can stagger him and he's dead as with a little bit of bleed. Kill Seth and sometimes get a truncheon. There's a fair few alcohol boxes in here for some free alcohol. Some of them give buffs, most do not anymore. This dungeon is big and windy. It's easy to get lost, so don't worry if you do. If you fall down into the mist, you'll simply start off at the beginning of the dungeon with all of your inventory. So that's a way to recenter yourself if you really have to. These guys here are the type of guys who are going to drop us the pristine Kari weaponry, and it is actually a really good source of fragments of power inside this dungeon. There are sometimes a lot of them. You get a couple of legendary key boxes, some fragments of power boxes, and some Kari steel boxes about on occasion. You can even read a little story. There's a whole story. I don't know if I've ever found all of the books, but yeah. You can find another one of him over here. Well, we found a pristine Kari sword. And our final dude is actually back over here. Actually, there's 4 of them. I'm missing one somewhere. One in a doorway. We got the bow off him. I don't know, there is another one around somewhere. Regardless, head up this way. Oh, maybe he's in this room? Yes, he's in this room. Haha. They will really hurt if they hit you, even if you think you're good. They are probably better. So try not to get hit by them. If you want to kill a spider boss, go down there. Get an extra legendary key. But if you want to kill Thag, head on in here. Boop. Light all of these fires. Eventually a whole bunch of nonsense will spawn. You want to kill him first. The skeletons that spawn will eventually die, but they can get kind of annoying, especially if you don't bring a thrall. He's not the easiest to kill when you're level 15, not level 10 and no stats in. So I'll boop him down. And I actually got the Hammer of Thag. That's kind of crazy. I've tried a bunch of times to get that in my life and only got it like twice. It used to be one of the best weapons in the game because it had really, really, really good stats added to it, but they took that away. Huh, crazy times. And then we get a random recipe. Ari Soldier this time. Sometimes it's the armor, sometimes it's the other armor, sometimes it's the weapons. You never know. You can get your legendary key boxes, then you can leave. Now these are the shark bites and the whale hammer that I was talking about earlier. Whale hammer will sap away any stamina they have, I believe. The shark bites are just a kind of measly legendary weapon that's kicking about, or semi-legendary weapon. And then if you level up your religious altars, you can make yourself some of these guys. They do have to be a tier 3 altar, and it does, I believe, cost about I don't even think I have any tier 3 altars here. About 50 zeal to craft them, so you have to really want them. This Staff of MANDIBLES used to be one of the best staffs in the game a million years ago, but they nerfed it down into the ground because of course they did. The Tenderizer has seen its times here and there also. But yeah, if you like something a little bit different. Just a random tip, if you happen to be playing on Sipta and you are using the Foreshadow to get zeal for your Ymir altar, because Ymir happens to be one of the best gods to gather on Sipta, as there is that always spawn, you can actually delve the Foreshadow and get some axe delving recipes out of the way that way. It's sure not the cheapest, but if you are using it to generate zeal, you're going to end up with a lot of them, more than you can handle anyway, so you might as well do that with them. You know what, side note, providing that even still works. I'd have to do some testing on God since they changed some stuff recently, so. And no doubt I forgot a thing here or there, I'm sure. But for the most part, those are the free, well, nothing is actually ever truly free because you do have to do something to acquire them, but you don't have to craft them. In fact, most of them are uncraftable. But anyway, those are where you can get all your free uncraftable legendary / kind of legendary weapons in the exiled lands. I'll have to put together another one for Sipta, as the bosses are kind of different and there are a lot more different cool legendaries that drop over there that don't drop over here at all. If you haven't already seen my guide on where to get all the non-craftable and or / free armor about the exiled lands, check that out next, or one of the other helpful guides that YouTube reckons that you'll like. If you did find this information informative, smash that like button. If you're not already, consider subscribing, it means a bunch. And until next time, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, night, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you may be. Have a good one.